My beloved child. Listen closely, because what happened was nothing like the quiet confession anyone expected. Your soulmate had been carrying words inside their heart for far longer than anyone around them realized. They had rehearsed those words alone, imagined telling you privately, and convinced themselves they would wait until the perfect moment. But then something changed. In a room filled with people, with conversations moving around them and every reason to remain silent, your soulmates suddenly reached a point where hiding what they felt became impossible. And then it happened. Their voice rose above everyone else. They said they loved you, openly, emotionally, without trying to disguise who they were talking about. For one unforgettable second, everything seemed to freeze. People stopped talking. Faces turned toward them. Someone who had been smiling suddenly looked completely stunned. But your soulmate did not take the words back. They repeated what they felt with even more certainty, as though years of hesitation had disappeared in a single breath. Don't skip, because the confession itself was not the biggest moment. What happened immediately afterward is what nobody in that room was prepared for. Stay till the end, because one person standing nearby reacted in a way that completely changed the meaning of the moment. While everyone else was trying to understand why your soulmate had suddenly revealed something so personal in front of them, this person already seemed to know. They did not look surprised by the love confession. They looked surprised that it had happened so soon. And your soulmate noticed. Imagine that moment. Their heart completely exposed, everyone watching, and then their eyes locking onto the one face in the room that seemed to be hiding another piece of the story. Your soulmate asked a simple question: "Why are you looking at me like that?" The room became quiet again. The person hesitated. Then they admitted something nobody expected: your soulmate's feelings had not been nearly as secret as they believed. Someone had noticed the way they changed whenever your name came up. Someone had seen how they remembered tiny details about you that everyone else forgot. Someone had even predicted that eventually your soulmate would stop protecting their feelings and say everything out loud. But here is where the story took an unbelievable turn. The person who noticed all of this had also learned something about you. Something that made them believe this public confession was connected to a much bigger moment still waiting ahead. Something huge is waiting for you, because your soulmate had entered that room thinking they were finally revealing the secret, only to discover that another secret had been quietly forming around both of you. And then came the moment nobody could explain away. Your soulmate was still standing there, overwhelmed by what they had just admitted, when someone from the other side of the room stepped forward. This was not the person anyone expected to speak. They had remained almost completely silent until then, watching everything unfold with an expression your soulmate could not read. They looked directly at your soulmate and said they had been waiting for this moment. Those words changed the atmosphere instantly. Waiting? Why would anyone have been waiting for your soulmate to declare their love for you? Your soulmate asked what they meant, but instead of answering immediately, this person revealed that a conversation involving you had taken place before your soulmate ever walked into that room. Your name had already been mentioned. A possibility involving your future had already been discussed. And there was one detail your soulmate had never been told. Suddenly, their public declaration no longer felt accidental. It felt like two separate stories had collided at exactly the same moment. Don't skip now. Your soulmate thought screaming their love for you would finally end the uncertainty, but it opened a door they did not even know existed. Because just before this person revealed what had been said about you, they looked around the room, lowered their voice, and told your soulmate something that left them speechless. Before I tell you the rest, you need to understand why everyone here was waiting to see if you would finally say it. But what happened next made your soulmate realize that their confession had triggered something much bigger than they imagined. The person standing across the room slowly revealed that several people had already noticed a strange pattern whenever you were mentioned. Your soulmate would become quieter. Their attention would sharpen. Even when they tried to act completely normal, there was something in their expression they could never hide. But that was not the shocking part. Someone in that room had spoken about you earlier and said, when they finally admit how they feel, everything is going to change. Your soulmate immediately wanted to know who had said it. Nobody answered. Then one person finally stepped forward and revealed that the conversation had started because of something recently discovered about you, something unexpectedly positive that made people see your connection differently. Your soulmate stood completely still. Minutes earlier, they had been terrified that everyone would judge their sudden declaration. Now they were realizing these people might have understood their feelings before they understood them themselves. Stay till the end, because what happened after this turned an emotional confession into a moment your soulmate may remember forever. Then someone asked your soulmate the question they had been avoiding for months. If you love this person enough to say it in front of everyone, what are you actually going to do about it? That question landed differently. The room went silent again. Your soulmate could no longer hide behind timing, uncertainty, or the idea that someday they would find the perfect words. They had already said the biggest words possible. Now everyone was waiting for what came next. And something inside your soulmate shifted. Instead of becoming embarrassed, they became strangely calm. They admitted that loving you had never been the confusing part. The confusing part was whether they were supposed to tell you everything they had been feeling. They revealed that there had been countless moments when they almost reached out, almost explained themselves, almost stopped pretending that this connection meant less than it really did. But every time, they waited. Not anymore. Don't skip, because your soulmate then said one sentence nobody expected. I don't want them hearing this story from somebody else. I want them hearing it from me. Suddenly, the people around them understood that this was no longer just an emotional outburst. Your soulmate had made a decision. And just when everyone thought the biggest revelation had already happened, the quietest person in the room interrupted. They told your soulmate there was something they needed to know before taking their next step toward you. Your soulmate turned toward them immediately. The person explained that someone connected to this entire situation had recently asked a question about you, a question that suggested your soulmate might not be the only person whose feelings had become impossible to ignore. Your soulmate's expression changed instantly. What exactly did they ask? They said. But the person hesitated, because the answer could completely transform what your soulmate believed about the distance between you. Something huge is waiting for you. The public confession was only the beginning. Your soulmate had finally stopped hiding their love, but now they were about to discover why another person believed you might already have sensed the truth. And before anyone could explain further, someone pulled out their phone, looked directly at your soulmate, and said, there's something here you need to see before you go to them." The moment that phone was placed in your soulmate's hand, the entire room seemed to disappear around them. They stared at the screen, expecting something ordinary, but what they saw made them look up immediately and ask, "When did this happen?" Nobody answered at first. And that silence told them this was bigger than they thought. The screen contained something connected to you, not a dramatic declaration, not an obvious confession, but one small detail that suddenly made months of uncertainty look completely different. It suggested that you had noticed more than your soulmate believed. You had remembered something they assumed you had forgotten. You had paid attention during a moment when they thought they were invisible to you. And suddenly, your soulmate began replaying everything: the conversations, the pauses, the strange coincidences, the moments when both of you almost said something deeper and then changed the subject. Their public confession had been spontaneous, but now they were wondering whether the connection behind it had been quietly building from both directions. Don't skip, because someone standing nearby then revealed why that detail had been kept from your soulmate until now. They had wanted your soulmate to make their own decision first. They wanted to know whether your soulmate would choose you without needing proof that you might feel something too. And tonight, in front of everyone, they finally had their answer. But your soulmate was not celebrating yet. Instead, they asked the one question nobody expected: "Why didn't anyone tell me sooner?" That was when the truth became even more surprising. One person explained that every time someone considered telling your soulmate what they had noticed about you, your soulmate seemed ready to retreat again. They were afraid that giving them too much information would make them analyze everything instead of following what their heart had already been trying to say. Your soulmate slowly looked around the room and realized something extraordinary: the people who had witnessed their confession were not laughing, judging, or questioning them. They were watching as if they had just witnessed someone finally become brave enough to stop hiding. Stay till the end, because your soulmate then did something completely unexpected. They asked for the room to become quiet one more time. Then, with everyone listening, they said that their first declaration had come from emotion, but what they were about to say now came from certainty. They said they were tired of pretending you were simply another person in their story. They were tired of acting unaffected when your name could change their entire mood. And most importantly, they were tired of waiting for a perfect moment that might never arrive. Then they looked toward the door and said, "I'm going to tell them myself. Something huge is waiting for you," because before your soulmate could leave, the person holding the phone stopped them again. "There's one more thing," they said. Your soulmate froze. Everyone expected another small detail, but this person revealed that the information on the phone was only part of what they had discovered. There had been another conversation involving you, one that happened recently, when your soulmate was nowhere around. During that conversation, someone had asked you a seemingly simple question about the kind of person you could imagine sharing your future with. Your soulmate's heartbeat seemed to stop for a second. They wanted the exact answer, but the person refused to reveal it immediately. Instead, they said something far more powerful. "You need to hear what happened after your name came up." Your soulmate stared at them. Their confidence from seconds earlier suddenly mixed with disbelief. What could possibly have happened? Why had nobody mentioned this before? And why did everyone in the room suddenly exchange knowing looks? Don't skip now, because your soulmate thought screaming their love in front of everyone was the once-in-a-lifetime moment. They had no idea that somewhere else, without them knowing, your name and their name had already been connected in a conversation, and the reaction that followed was about to change their next move completely. What your soulmate heard next erased every thought they had prepared. The person finally explained what happened when your soulmate's name came up in that private conversation. You had not immediately answered. You had gone quiet for a moment. And that tiny pause was exactly what everyone remembered. Because it was not the silence of someone who felt nothing. It was the silence of someone choosing their words carefully. Then you said something simple about wanting a connection that felt genuine, peaceful, loyal, and impossible to fake. You never openly named your soulmate, yet someone listening noticed something remarkable. Nearly every quality you described matched the person now standing in this room after declaring their love for you. Your soulmate could barely process it. They asked whether anyone had misunderstood what you meant, but the answer surprised them even more. Nobody was claiming certainty about your feelings. Nobody wanted to put words in your mouth. But there was enough there to make one thing impossible to ignore. You had apparently been thinking seriously about the kind of connection you wanted, at almost the same time your soulmate had been struggling to hide what they felt. Stay till the end, because instead of giving your soulmate an easy answer, this revelation gave them something more powerful. Courage to finally seek the truth directly from you. And then the atmosphere changed completely. Your soulmate looked around at everyone who had witnessed the confession and realized there was nothing left to prove inside that room. The next chapter belonged between you and them. Someone quietly asked, "Are you still going?" Your soulmate smiled. Not because they suddenly knew how everything would end, but because for the first time they were no longer controlled by uncertainty. "Yes," they answered. "But I'm not going there expecting an answer. I'm going there to finally tell the truth." That sentence surprised everyone. Your soulmate understood something they had missed for months. Real love was not about forcing a perfect outcome. It was about having enough courage to be genuine when hiding had become heavier than honesty. Don't skip, because as they began moving toward the door, the same person who had shown them the phone called their name one final time. Your soulmate turned around. "Remember what happened tonight," the person said. "You thought everyone would be shocked because you loved them. The real shock was how long everyone already knew." Your soulmate laughed softly, but their eyes carried an emotion nobody had seen from them before. They were finally ready. Not to perform. Not to impress. Not to make another public declaration. Just to stand before you without pretending. But the final surprise came before your soulmate even made it outside. Their phones suddenly lit up. They glanced down, and stopped walking. Everyone noticed immediately. Someone asked what happened, but your soulmate did not answer. They simply stared at the screen with an expression that transformed from confusion into complete disbelief. Because after an entire evening of people talking about you, after your soulmate had finally screamed their love in front of everyone, after they had decided they would stop waiting and come toward you themselves, your name had appeared on their phone. The timing felt almost impossible. Your soulmate looked around the room as though trying to make sure nobody had arranged it, but everyone looked equally stunned. "Something huge is waiting for you," because this was the moment the entire story turned around. Your soulmate had spent so long wondering whether they should reach toward you, and now, at the exact moment they finally chose courage over hesitation, something connected to you had reached them first. They looked at your name again, took one slow breath, and suddenly everyone understood why the confession in that room might not have been the ending at all. It may have been the beginning of the conversation your soulmate had been waiting far too long to have. The room became completely still as your soulmate stared at your name glowing on the screen. For a few seconds, they did nothing. This was the same person who had just found enough courage to declare their love in front of everyone, yet suddenly one simple notification from you made every rehearsed sentence disappear. Someone whispered, "Are you going to look?" Your soulmate finally opened it, and their expression changed. What appeared was not the grand confession everyone expected. It was something far more unexpected because the timing was impossible to ignore. You had reached out about a small detail connected to something the two of you had shared before, something that would have seemed ordinary on any other day. But tonight it felt completely different. Your soulmate read it again, then looked around and quietly said, "They have no idea what just happened here." And that realization hit them deeply. While they had been standing in a crowded room finally revealing everything they had hidden, you had been somewhere else thinking about them for your own reason. Don't skip, because your soulmate was about to respond when another thought stopped them. What if this was the moment they had been waiting for? Not some perfectly arranged encounter. Not a dramatic sign. Just one unexpected opening arriving at exactly the moment they had finally decided to stop hiding. Your soulmate began typing, erased everything, and started again. Everyone watched from a distance, but nobody interrupted. They could see that this answer mattered. Your soulmate could have pretended nothing unusual had happened. They could have sent a casual response and returned to hiding behind ordinary conversation. Instead, they wrote something different. They told you there was something important they wanted to tell you personally. Then their finger hovered over the screen. Stay till the end, because right before they sent it, the quiet person from earlier said, "Don't turn this into another almost." Those words landed hard. Your soulmate had lived through too many almost moments with you, almost calling, almost speaking honestly, almost admitting why your presence affected them differently. Tonight had already destroyed one wall. They were not rebuilding it. They sent the message. And almost immediately, something appeared on the screen that made their eyes widen. You were responding. Not minutes later. Not hours later. Right then. Your soulmate watched the typing indicator appear, disappear, and appear again. Everyone could feel the tension without knowing what you were writing. Then your response arrived, and your soulmate read the first few words twice because they were not prepared for them. Something huge is waiting for you, because your response revealed that you also had something you had wanted to say. That was all it took. Your soulmate stopped caring about the people watching. The public confession had been enormous, but suddenly this private exchange mattered even more. They walked away from the crowd, holding the phone close, trying to understand why both of you had chosen this same night to stop avoiding something important. Your soulmate replied that they wanted to hear everything, but before they could send another word, your next message appeared. It suggested that what you needed to say was not something you wanted reduced to a few lines on a screen. Your soulmate froze again. Their entire evening had been built around one decision, to finally speak honestly to you, and now it seemed why.